At 6:58 a.m., I watched wet concrete pour into my brand new swimming pool like a gray tidal wave, and I swear my brain made the windows shut down sound, except it was my pool pump screaming once and dying mid-gurgle. I hadn't even set my keys down, not one single key, and my backyard oasis turned into a curing sidewalk. And the wildest part, standing on my patio like she was supervising a public works project, was Karen, calm as a yoga instructor, holding a clipboard saying, "Keep going." Now here's the thing about me, I don't really do panic. I know that sounds like something you'd see on a motivational poster next to a photo of a mountain, but it's true. I don't spiral, I go straight to procedure. Panic is loud, messy, and it makes you forget details. Procedure is quiet, mean, and it wins in court. So even while my pool was getting buried alive, my brain was already stacking evidence like bricks. Because 2 months earlier, I'd done everything the boring, correct, painfully adult way. City permits, licensed contractor, inspections scheduled and logged online, final approval posted. I even double-checked my deed, because I've lived long enough to know the universe loves a technicality, and my parcel, by recorded boundary lines, sat outside any HOA. Well, the neighbor thinks, the county recorder's office level of outside. So when the first courtesy notice showed up in a plain envelope, I didn't toss it on the junk pile with the pizza coupons and the "you've won a free cruise" scams. It was weird from the start. No case number, no ordinance cited, no signature, just this smug little command. Submit your exterior modification for review within 48 hours. 48 hours, like I was installing a chandelier in Versailles. I photographed that envelope right on my kitchen counter so the timestamp metadata would stick. Then I scanned the letter and emailed it to myself with a subject line that basically screamed, "Unverified HOA notice received 10:14 a.m. Because evidence doesn't happen later. Evidence happens now, when your hands are clean and your story is fresh." The next day, Karen appeared at my fence line like she owned the air, blazer fitted like armor, hair perfect in that way that tells you she either wakes up at 4 a.m. to fight God, or she has a salon on retainer. Clipboard in hand, smile set to pleasant threat. "I'm Karen," she said, like I was supposed to clap, president of Willow Crest HOA. "Your pool is a concern." "I'm not in Willow Crest," I said, keeping it calm, because you don't throw emotion at someone who feeds on it. Her smile didn't move. "You are now." I blinked once. "That's not how geography works." "Administrative expansion," she replied, like she was announcing a new season of a show nobody asked for. So I asked her the only question that matters when someone tries to pretend power into existence. "Show me the recorded document that binds my parcel to your bylaws." She tilted her head. "You can appeal after compliance." That sentence right there, appeal after compliance, tells you everything you need to know about a person. It means do what I say first, and then maybe I'll consider letting you argue about whether I had the right to say it. It's the legal version of "because I said so." So I did what I always do when someone tries to rewrite reality in front of my face. I made a record of the moment. I opened my phone and typed an email while she watched me, thumbs flying like I was texting in a hostage situation. "Per our conversation at 3:22 p.m., you asserted my parcel is under your HOA. Please provide the recorded boundary map and membership instrument. Until then, do not enter my property." I hit send, and I watched her eyes flick to my screen like she could physically see the paper trail growing teeth. That was evidence rung 2, contemporaneous recap, sweet and simple, and Karen's first real strike wasn't force, it was pressure. 2 days later, my pool contractor called me, voice tight. "Hey, someone claiming to be the HOA president emailed us." "Karen," I said, not even a question. "She's threatening our insurer," he said. "She sent a PDF, looks official, but it's weird." He forwarded it. The PDF was full of bold text about liability exposure and emergency abatement, but there was no city seal, no permit number, nothing verifiable, just the vibe of authority, like she was cosplaying as a government agency. I saved the raw email headers, the attachment metadata, every little digital fingerprint. Evidence rung 3. Then certified mail hit my porch like a brick in an envelope, an emergency assessment for $25,000 and an intent to file a lien within 72 hours. Still no board minutes, no vote record, no case number, nothing that said this was real beyond the fact that someone had paid extra at the post office to make it feel scary. I photographed the pages, the tracking label, and saved the USPS tracking history as a PDF. Evidence rung 4. And then I did the thing Karen clearly didn't expect. I went to the county recorder and pulled reality off the shelf. I downloaded my deed, then the county GIS boundary overlay, highlighted my parcel like I was teaching a class, printed it with the URL and date visible, because if you've ever stood in front of a judge, you know they love a good source, government website moment. My lot was outside Willow Crest, clean as daylight. Evidence rung 5. I emailed Karen one sentence with the attachment, because I'm petty in the most efficient way. My parcel is outside your HOA boundary. Do not contact my vendors or insurer again. Then another line. Any entry will be treated as trespass. Her reply came 6 minutes later, which tells you she lives for this. Your map is incorrect. Our counsel will proceed. No proof attached. Just arrogance. Evidence rung 6. Written refusal to validate. And if you've ever dealt with someone like Karen, you know intimidation likes quiet, likes early mornings, likes moments when you're groggy and alone, and your neighbors haven't had coffee yet. So of course, it happened at dawn. Saturday morning, I got a text from Derek, my neighbor across the street. Derek's one of those guys who always looks like he just finished building something, even if he's just taking out the trash. Great guy, not nosy but alert. His text was a photo, headlights in my driveway, reflective vests at my side gate, and Karen's SUV parked like it belonged there. My stomach didn't drop, it went cold and still like a lake in winter. I called 911 immediately. Unknown workers are entering my fenced backyard. I said, I am the homeowner, I am not authorizing access. The dispatcher gave me a call reference number, and I repeated it out loud, on purpose, so it'd be in the recording. I noted the time the second I hung up. Evidence rung 7. When I pulled up, the workers were already inside, not by climbing, not by jumping the fence, but by dismantling my side gate latch. Like they'd done it before. Like it was normal. And there she was, Karen, standing on my patio pavers, clipboard tucked under her elbow, arms folded, face arranged in that bored confidence people get when they think the world is their customer service desk. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I went calm and loud, the way you do when you want your voice clear on video. Stop, I said. You are on private property. Shut it down. The foreman glanced at Karen before he answered me, which told me instantly who he believed had authority here. We've got a work order, he said, HO authorized. Show me, I said. He held up a packet like it was sacred text but didn't hand it over. Karen stepped forward half a step. You refused compliance. This is nuisance abatement. A finished, inspected pool is a nuisance. I repeated, because sometimes you just have to say the insane thing out loud so everyone can hear how insane it is. You can talk to our counsel, she said, like she was offering me a customer satisfaction survey. So I filmed. Broken latch. Boots on my deck. The hose aimed at my pool. Karen in frame. Then I zoomed on the truck, company name, DOT number, license plate. Evidence rung 8. And then they started pouring. Gray slurry slid into the deep end, thick and heavy, like the pool was being buried in slow motion. My pump tried to cycle, choked, then quit. The foreman hesitated, just a flicker, the tiny human part of him trying to break through the job site autopilot. I said, loud enough for my camera. I revoked permission. You are trespassing. This is your notice. He looked like he wanted an exit ramp, and then Karen, crisp, clean, like she was signing a check, cut him off. Continue. That one word landed on my video like a signature. 2 patrol cars rolled up not long after, tires crunching on gravel, and for the first time all morning I felt air enter my lungs again. I walked straight to the officers with my permit summary and the county boundary printout already in hand, because if you walk up empty-handed, people treat your story like a complaint, not a fact. I'm the owner, I said. They forced entry and are damaging my pool. I need an incident report number. Karen stepped up with her clipboard raised like a badge. Willow Crest HOA. President Karen Dawson. This property is under our jurisdiction. The officer looked at her, then at me, then at the gate latch like it personally offended him. Do you have documentation? He asked her. Karen flipped pages fast. Lots of paper. No recorded instrument. No county stamp. Just theatrics. The second officer crouched by the latch, took photos, then stood and said flatly, "This gate was tampered with." And then the first officer turned to the foreman and said the most beautiful word I'd heard all day. "Stop work right now." Karen snapped, "You can't." "Yes, I can," the officer said, and his voice had that tone that ends arguments. "Work stops." Stop landed in my yard like a stamp. Karen tried to recover, pivoting into threats like it was her native language. We'll file liens, we'll recover costs. I kept my voice flat. Anything you file from this point forward is discoverable. She blinked. What? I'm documenting, I said, holding up my phone. I'm preserving. Monday morning, I'm in court. She smiled brittle. Good luck. By noon I had the incident number, the vendor identity, video showing Karen ordering continuation after notice, plus the police photos of the latch. I emailed my attorney, Marcus Lee, and Marcus called back fast, voice sharp like he'd been waiting for someone to finally hand him a clean, ugly case. Emergency TRO, he said, and a preservation demand to the vendor. If they ignore it, they're cooked. Evidence rung 9. Now here's where the twist hit, and it didn't come from Karen, it came from inside her own little kingdom. Because Monday morning, Karen escalated by emailing my mortgage company a compliance notice, trying to poison the water where I actually drink. I caught it only because my mortgage portal showed a new uploaded document. I downloaded the upload log with the timestamp and sender details like it was a golden ticket. Evidence rung 10. And then, this is the part that still makes me laugh a little, in that tired, disbelieving way. I got an email from an unknown address with no greeting, just one sentence. Check the HOA meeting minutes, she never had a vote. Attached was a blurry photo of board notes. Not official, not formatted, but enough to point Marcus in the right direction. The sender signed it simply, S. I stared at that screen for a long moment, because you don't realize how many people are trapped under someone like Karen until one of them slips you a key. Later I found out S was one of the board members, quiet guy, always in the background, who'd watched her pull this administrative expansion nonsense without proper votes, without proper filings, and he'd finally had enough. Not because he loved me, but because he recognized a liability grenade rolling across the table, and he didn't feel like losing his house over Karen's ego. So we opened a second lane, official confirmation. I emailed the city's code enforcement and permits office one question. Please confirm whether Willow Crest HOA has jurisdiction over parcel YD. Attached the county GS overlay. Asked for a written response. 2 hours later, a reply hit my inbox from a city official. No HOA jurisdiction is recorded for this parcel. Enforcement authority remains with the city and property owner. I saved it as a PDF, printed it for court. Evidence rung 11. Agency confirmation, in writing, the kind of thing that makes bluffers sweat. Wednesday, the courthouse hallway smelled like cheap coffee and expensive mistakes. Karen arrived with 2 board members behind her dressed for victory, like they were walking into an awards ceremony for being annoying. You're embarrassing the community, she said softly. Leaning in like this was a friendly intervention. You poured concrete into my pool. I said, you made it embarrassing. In the hearing, the judge didn't care about Karen's tone, her blazer, her clipboard, or her little entourage. The judge cared about exhibits, and Marcus had a stack that could have doubled as a doorstop. Permit log with final inspection. County GIS boundary map. Police incident number. Photos of the latch. City jurisdiction email. Vendor paperwork, because once we sent the preservation demand, the vendor magically became cooperative. Funny how that works. Then Marcus read from the vendor's work order notes, and I watched Karen's face do that tiny stiffening thing, like someone tugged an invisible cord behind her neck. It said, plain as day, pour at first light, homeowner returns around 7. HOA president on site for sign-off. The judge looked over his glasses. Ms. Dawson, he said, did you direct the timing? Her lawyer popped up. Objection. Overruled, the judge said, and it wasn't angry, it was bored, like he'd seen this movie and hated the ending. Karen swallowed. We coordinated for efficiency. For efficiency, the judge repeated, and there was a pause that felt like a door closing, or to avoid the homeowner. Karen's confidence collapsed under fluorescent lights in real time. Instant. Total. She'd walked in thinking she was an authority, and realized she was just a person with a clipboard and no recorded power. Temporary restraining order is granted, the judge said. Cease all enforcement actions against this parcel. No entry, no liens. Preserve all communications. Violation will be contempt. Stop, signed, sealed, clean. And because the universe loves symmetry, the same day Marcus served that order on the HOA, their counsel, my lender, and the vendor, my mortgage company got a formal retraction. A written correction stated my parcel was not subject to Willow Crest governance, and any prior notices were issued in error. Then came the money part, numbers, signatures, grown-ups suddenly behaving like grown-ups. The vendor's insurer called, voice polite but tense. We have documentation the pour was unauthorized. We need your repair estimate. Oh, I had that estimate. I already had a licensed contractor report describing contaminated lines, structural risk at the deep end, and the cost to jackhammer the slab out without damaging the shell. Photos labeled by date and time. Evidence rung 12, professional damage report, under the shadow of an injunction and potential sanctions. The HOA's insurer and the vendor's insurer agreed to cover removal and restoration, plus my attorney's fees and damages for trespass and loss of use. The settlement required the HOA to adopt a policy barring board members from initiating abatement without recorded jurisdiction, and the board held an emergency vote to remove Karen as president and bar her from serving again for a set term, because once insurers ask for minutes, people suddenly remember how voting works. A week later, a different crew jackhammered and vacuumed out the concrete, the sound brutal and satisfying, like the universe correcting itself one cracked chunk at a time. My latch got replaced with a heavy-duty lock and a tamper sensor. My cameras stayed up. Karen drove by once and slowed at the curb. She didn't get out, didn't wave, didn't even try her smile. She just stared forward, hands tight on the wheel, learning what it feels like when procedure turns around and looks at you. When the pool was finally restored, I didn't throw a parade. I sat on the back steps with a coffee, while my kids skipped stones across the shallow end, sunlight bouncing off water like nothing bad had ever happened here. That Friday, Derek and his wife came over with burgers, nothing fancy, just a normal loud American grill, laughter, the clink of ice in cheap cups, the sound of neighbors who'd finally stopped whispering. At one point Derek smirked and said, "So should we invite the HOA?" And I laughed, one short, sharp laugh, because the joke landed on solid ground now. Here's what I learned, and I didn't learn it from a book or a quote on a wall. You don't beat a Karen by getting louder. Loudness is her home turf. You beat her by getting cleaner, records, timelines, receipts, screenshots, calm sentences sent at the exact right time, until her story can't breathe. Because power like hers isn't real power, it's borrowed confidence, and the second you drag it into daylight and ask for proof it starts to rot. But I'll also tell you something nobody says out loud. Sometimes the system only protects you if you speak its language, and that's a bitter little truth. If I hadn't documented that first envelope, if I hadn't saved those headers, if Derek hadn't texted, if a quiet board member hadn't finally cracked, I might be standing in my yard right now staring at a concrete slab and a lawyer bill with my name on it. Justice isn't always automatic. Sometimes it's assembled piece by piece by someone who's too stubborn to let a clipboard become a weapon. So here's the question I can't stop thinking about, and I'd love to hear where you land on it. When someone abuses a position that's supposed to serve a community, like an HOA board seat, should the consequences stop at removal and a settlement, or should there be real personal penalties? Even criminal ones, when they cross into trespass and property damage. Drop your take in the comments. Tell me where you draw the line between enforcement and bullying, between community rules and raw abuse of power, and if you've ever had your own run-in with someone who thought they could boss you around just because they had a title and a clipboard. Share that story too. I'm genuinely curious how many of us have been one Karen away from chaos.